We got some great news today with the stock market. We got some great news with Nvidia, great news with Netflix, great news with all other stocks. We're going to be talking about all that today. But before we start, I just want to say Nvidia is up 10%. We got another stock, Netflix, up 15%. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later. And Oracle up 16%. We got some great news with these stocks. I think Google's almost touching that all-time high. Microsoft 6%, and we got some other stocks too. And we're going to be talking about the news and everything behind that. We also got Tesla up 4% today, almost 4%. But with that being said, I want to start off with some news and stuff like that. So we're gonna start off with some good news with Nvidia and just overall. But we basically have a 400 or $500 billion deal. So Trump announced a $500 billion AI project, one of the biggest projects so far, working with companies like SoftBank. So we got SoftBank right here. SoftBank went up. And then we got Oracle. Oracle is another one that we want to talk about. 11% right now, $184. We did have a dip in Oracle a little bit, and a time, not really a dip in Nvidia, but Nvidia is still going up. But with that being said, and OpenAI, which OpenAI basically just makes Chat GPT, and that kind of fueled the surge back in 2022, when you see Nvidia, have those stock splits. But Stargate will create over 100,000 American jobs. The total investment of 500 billion is going to be over the next 4 years. Nvidia will get a big boost in this deal because they're basically going to be making data centers in Texas, and to fuel these data centers, they need chips. And who are they going to get the chips from? Potentially Nvidia. We did see AMD go up too, but potentially Nvidia. It's not really 100% yet, but people are kind of estimating it's going to be Nvidia chips, the best of the best, because why not? But with that being said, we're going to be talking about Netflix because they had a crazy earnings. It basically went parabolic, but they grew over 11%, and we're up. So we're up 10% right now. But basically, the announcement of 19 million new users in the fourth quarter. So that's insane. But if you can see, 5 days ago, or not, in the 5 day market, we were down like 870, and we reached that $1,000 mark. Like, it broke that $1,000 mark after hours. But we did have a die down, so we might see it kind of get down maybe to the 920 levels, maybe 900 later on. So you might see it kind of bearish overall, just to kind of level out. You always see that. But I also want to talk about Trump's American First policies that include a corporate tax cuts too. So keep that in mind too. But with that being said, before we get to some other news, I want to say the top daily gainers, ARM Holdings. ARM did go up a bunch too, 14%. Insane. We got Disco, and we got some other ones, Netflix, of course. They're all buy ratings except for these two. And then some most active stocks still, Nvidia, of course. Tesla isn't on the list. Palantir went up 5% today. SoundOut AI. We've been seeing this pretty bullish for the last 2 trading days. Rigetti, of course, you guys see that moving a lot. And also, Intel is racing to get their next CEO, but they're kind of not really too clear on that. But once we do get a CEO, we're going to be seeing Intel up a decent amount. So keep that in mind. If we do get a new CEO and he does turn the business around, we could see Intel like move basically. And TikTok owner basically plan to spend $12 billion on AI chips in 2025. This is just some side news. So just keep that in mind. Two, add some good news, I guess, added to it, because they might add some AI abilities to TikTok, even though it's probably potentially getting shut down soon. But first stock we're going to be looking at on our list is indeed Tesla. We haven't really been moving that much today. We've just been bouncing up and down today. We did have a big sell off yesterday because of the 50% cars by 2030, or 50% of the new cars are supposed to be EVs by 2030, but that kind of got revoked. So they kind of dropped a lot. You've seen that a lot in EV sectors, but we're kind of regrouping a little bit. I do want to see what happens with these two levels, the 425 and the 420 level. If we bounce below the 420 level, we can probably see 418, 416, 414, 411, 410. We might see a bounce off the 410, or 405, a bounce off the 405, or even 400. 400 is going to be a key level. If we bounce off that 400, we might bounce off of one of these levels, or if we keep on going down, maybe 395 and then bounce off. But with that being said, I think we need bad news for it to go all the way down there. And then bounce above, we might see 425, 430, 435, 440. And then 450 is going to be a key level. But also keep in mind that it might bounce off of one and go downwards. Like as you've seen here, 427, we've seen it go up and then it bounced and then kept going down a bunch. So just look at these key levels for bounce and or just continuing to break through it. Just be very, very careful trading, especially right now, Tesla, just because of how it's moving. We don't really got any good news right now, so it's not really that much fuel. So just keep that in mind. One that does have fuel, Nvidia, man. Look at this thing. Ooh. With that good news, we went up a bunch. With that being said, I do want to see it to the upside and want to see how it reacts to that 150. But later on, let's get some levels though: 147.44, 148, 149, 149.5, and then going to that 150 level. I really want to see what happens at that 150. We might break past it, maybe get to 152, and then see a big bounce and or break past it. So just keep that in mind. And then if we do, maybe get some bearish news or it just starts looking bearish and the sellers are in, I do want to see that 145.80 level, 145 flat, and then 143.6. And if we keep breaking these levels, maybe 143, we might see a bounce or it might break below that. So keep that in mind for NVIDIA. Next, we got some almost touching some highs on SPY. With that being said, I do want to see it still go to the upside. With this good news with AI, I think it's going to still go up, but just keep in mind that we might have a little bit of a dip and then go up. With that being said, I do want to see how it reacts with what it recently bounced off of, this 607.8, and then going up to 608, 609, 610. If we can break that 609 level, it would be insane. But we got to see how it works on that 609. We might see a bounce and then maybe sell a few dollars and then maybe go back up. But it just depends on news. To the downside, if the other stocks that are kind of fueling it doesn't keep going up, we can see it go down to that 606.5 level and then 606 and then 605 and then 604. And they're probably retesting that 600 we had yesterday. But I don't think we'll get down that far. We're looking pretty good with some stocks. That being said, Apple, we've been kind of up and down with this stock. I do kind of hope that we don't get no more bad news and it starts going up again. If we do start going up again, we can probably see it at that 230 level again, maybe, but we just need some decent news. And I think it's just going to kind of just balance itself out at like 230 to 240. But with that being said, back down to the downside, I will look at that 219 level. We did have a bounce off of that at market open. So if we can either retest it and then bounce off or retest it and then finally break it, we can see a downside, maybe 215. With that being said, to the upside, if we do start going up or we do see a bounce, we can see 223, 224, 225. 225 is going to be key, 228, and then that 230 level is going to be a big level to look at. That being said, Soundhound, we have been making some higher highs consistently, and then we finally broke. Like we made another higher high, and then we finally just broke and went kind of parabolic. But we are kind of looking kind of bearish, but we kind of broke those higher lows, and then now we're kind of making higher highs again. So we might just be balancing out first, and then you'll see it back up to the upside. So I would look at that 17.8 level to see what happens when it retests, and if we can break above that, we might be able to see 18. So keep that in mind. Bitcoin overall, we're looking pretty bearish right now. We did hit some decent levels, but that was like before. But we're not really getting no good news with crypto right now. I think everybody's waiting to get some good news with crypto. So I think we're just being patient. We might be able to retest that 102, going all the way down to that 100 level again, and then we might get some good news and we might bounce off the 100 or maybe break below the 100, sell, get a big sell off and then break when we get some good news. With that being said, we're going to be looking at MSTR because MSTR moves with Bitcoin, as you guys can see. When we get that 110, we got like 404. So with that being said, we're currently trading at 376. So depending on how Bitcoin really looks, if we're still going to the downside, I'll look at that 370 level all the way down to that 360 level. So if you guys want to play some calls or puts on this stock, you guys can. I think they just bought like, I think 1.8 billion or something. I might not be accurate, but they just bought a bunch of more Bitcoin recently. But with that being said, to the upside, if we do see Bitcoin going back to the upside, I'll look at that 388 level, 400 level. And then if we can break that 400 level, I'm hoping we'll see in 410, but we kind of need better highs from Bitcoin themselves and just better news, honestly. If we can get some good news, then that could be pretty dope. Another stock that went up is Palantir. We are looking pretty bullish on the stock, as you guys can see overall. We're in the 5-minute time frame, but that being said, I do want to see how it tests with that 78. We can break that 78, we can get up to 80, and then get up to 80. We can probably get 82, 84, and then probably even try and test that 90 level. But that's probably later on in the week. We got to get some better news. But if we do break this bullish trend and we start going down again, I will look at that 75, 74, 71, and then 70 and see how it tests that 70 level. We might get a bounce or we might break past it. Look at that 68 level and down even more. But that's going to take some time anyway, so I don't want to look too far ahead. But that being said, just be very, very careful trading this stock. But I am very bullish on it right now, and it looks very, very bullish. Another stock that we kind of seen kind of up, but we kind of have a fall now is AMD. with the with kind of the AMD like chip demand, we've been looking pretty strong on it, but at the same time, I do recommend being very very patient with this stock because it just doesn't move as much and it doesn't really offer as much as like Nvidia or something. Of course, it's not as big as Nvidia, but they just look at Nvidia as the bigger chip supplier, and everybody really buys from Nvidia. With that being said, if we can get some good deals or anything in the good news sense, we can see the stock go up. We're still kind of pretty bullish. We just had a big sell off recently. I do want to look at how it retests that 122 level. We might be able to bounce off it, or we might just see a bounce around here and then go back to the upside. With that being said, we might be able to retest that 124.2 level and then retest that 125 level later on. And then if we can either break it or we bounce off of it, we might see it to the downside. Probably retest on 122, going down to 122 flat, and probably that 120 level. I do recommend if you do want to get into this stock, I would look at it at the 120 to the 119 level just to get some shares and probably just hold it long term. It's a good long term stock. With that being said, we had some bad, not really too bad news, but they closed down some stores on GameStop, and we have been kind of bearish with this stock. It's been holding that 30 level for a while, but then we're kind of falling now. So we might see GameStop later on at that 25 level consistently, probably bouncing on that 25 level for a little bit and or go all the way down to that 20 level once again. But I mean, they're still pretty strong. They have a big cash flow, but they just had some bad news by closing some stores. So keep that in mind. That being said, we did have Google pretty high. We're still like pretty bullish on the stock, but we did have a sell off, just like you've seen with AMD. Not as big, but just normally if you see a sell off in one stock, a lot of other stocks kind of follow with it. With that being said, I do want to look at that 203 level, 204, 205, and then maybe 210, but that's probably later on in this week. Next one I do want to look at is Microsoft because Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI. With that being said, with that deal, OpenAI is working with the $500 billion deal that Trump made. So as you guys can see, we've seen a big increase. So with that being said, I do want to be very very careful because we do need some more news and stuff like that to fuel this a little bit more because we can see the stock drop probably even to the 439 level, 435, and probably just level out all the way down to that 430 level. So with that being said, don't invest too early or too late. I feel like it's kind of a late investment right now. But with that being said, if we can start getting some more investors into this, we can get 446, 448, and probably get that 450 level. But just be very careful investing into this, playing some news because it's kind of late playing the news, honestly. Maybe at the beginning of the day, you could have played it and played it up and then sold it here and just do a little day trade. But with that being said, some news with like Microsoft and stuff like that wouldn't really fuel it too much. And the same thing with NVIDIA, but I think NVIDIA, we might get to that 150 level, test that 150 level, and maybe bounce off of it unless we just continue getting good news. But I think with NVIDIA, since they're kind of still, it's not really verified that they're selling the chips to them, if we can get a deal where it says that they're going to buy chips from NVIDIA themselves and how much money they're buying it for, we might be able to see a big push in NVIDIA and probably breaking some highs. So keep that in mind. Thanks for watching the video. Smash that like button, subscribe if you guys are new. Let's hope the market stays green.